Ukraine is trying to reduce its dependency on foreign aid by strengthening its own weapons industry, by building new factories, as well as developing new weapons systems. There are two main reasons for that. The first, as already mentioned, is obvious: to be able to bolster your own defense capabilities without having to rely on others. The second reason is economic. The war has really put a strain on the Ukrainian economy, causing inflation, the crash of industrial and agricultural sectors like steel or wheat. So the defense industry is something that hopefully can create jobs and essential income for the country itself and its population. The USA, for example, has provided Ukraine with military aid worth over $40 billion. From a military perspective, that's not only amazing, it's vital. From an economic standpoint, however, aid always creates dependencies. So, welcome to Talking Tactics, where this week we want to dive into the world of Ukrainian weapons and give an insight into the latest developments in the country's defense sector. Who has produced what, and what deals have been made to secure the country's safety and essentially its future. We've previously done 3 episodes on this topic, one about the industry as a whole, the second about the witty and MacGyvery things Ukrainians come up with to counter the Russian army. The third is about Ukraine's new fleet of naval drones, which you can check out in our Black Sea episode. But since there is much more we never managed to cover, and hardly a month goes by without some big development, here is the world of Ukrainian weapons 2.0. On the 31st of August, President Zelensky spoke of a new Ukrainian weapon boasting a range of 700 kilometers. He didn't mention any details. However, he made this statement just a day after an attack on an airbase in Russian Pskov, which left at least 4 military planes damaged. Pskov is closer to the borders of Estonia and Latvia than Ukraine. It's 800 kilometers north of Kyiv and about 700 kilometers from the northern border. So, what Ukrainian weapon is Zelensky talking about? Ukraine has been converting and modifying old weapons into new ones. 5 V-28 rockets for the S-200 system, for example, which date back from the 1960s and were retired by the hundreds during the past decades in Ukraine. They're fitted with a new guidance system, giving them a deep strike capability of more than 250 kilometers. The most recent and prized development is an upgraded version of the Neptune, originally an anti-ship missile that has been modified to attack land targets. On August 23rd, Kyiv used the modified Neptune anti-ship cruise missile to hit a Russian S-400 air defense system on the western tip of occupied Crimea. The modification concerns the guidance system, which, like modern drones, is now supposed to work not via GPS using outside communication, but with an internal GPS system. So, the map and target position are uploaded onto the missile, and it then follows this pre-dictated flight path. Just like with drones, this protects from spoofing, jamming, and against some forms of detection. With a range of supposedly around 400 kilometers, the new Neptune has a greater range than the ATACMS, which Ukraine has been requesting from the USA for the past 1.5 years. That doesn't mean the ATACMS aren't needed, and thankfully, there seems to finally be some light at the end of the tunnel regarding that topic. But it's good to have such a long-range missile in your own inventory. How big of an effort the retuning of the Neptune actually is, and what the actual production capacity will be, remains to be seen. But since the condition to not strike targets inside Russia is something set by most Western partners before delivering any military aid, a homegrown long-range weapon is obviously free from any of these political chains. However, with an impressive 400 kilometers, it's still 300 kilometers short of the 700 Zelensky threw into the media sphere. So, it's much more likely that this new Ukrainian weapon is an unmanned aerial vehicle or drone. Ukrainian drone production has expanded rapidly in the past months. We probably don't know even half of the models that are already taking off into the skies on a regular basis. But when it comes to these distances, one of the more likely options in the Ukrainian arsenal with the capability to carry out such long-range attacks is the Bobr, which means beaver in Ukrainian. Especially the Russian media sphere has been blowing up about this drone, which has apparently been used in multiple attacks on the Russian capital. It has a range of up to 1,000 kilometers, the flight time is 7 hours, can carry a warhead weighing 20 kilograms, and is capable of changing altitudes to pass air defense zones and change targets. But apart from these newer weapon systems that have the potential to be exported globally sometime in the future, Ukraine has also been expanding its defense portfolio by offering its land to become a production hub for global arms producers. It's not a coincidence that the country will be hosting the first so-called Forum of Defense Industries later this year. a platform where the world's leading developers and largest arms manufacturers, together with the military and political leadership of Ukraine, will work together to develop new alliances and strategies to support international security and launch joint projects. Sweden and Ukraine have already agreed to jointly produce the Swedish CV-90 infantry fighting vehicles, which is manufactured by BAE Systems, here in Ukraine, with the first target being the production of 1,000 CV-90s. CV-90s are comparable to the American M2 Bradleys or German Marders, an infantry fighting vehicle used mainly for assault operations during Ukraine's counteroffensive. A similar agreement was made between Ukroboronprom, the Ukrainian defense conglomerate, and its Polish counterpart, the PGZ, for the production of 125mm tank shells in Ukraine. 125mm shells are used by Ukraine's Soviet-era tanks like the T-72. The Turkish defense company Baykar has already started constructing a factory in Ukraine to produce Bayraktar drones. The TB2 is one of the most effective combat drones in the world, proving its worth not only in Ukraine, but through deployments around the globe, like in Syria and Libya. Last but not least, German defense giant Rheinmetall has announced the opening of a factory here in Ukraine in 2023. So you see, a lot is happening, but if you think this means swift victory, be aware, also Russia is stepping up its production. In a different way, of course, more on its own and more scrambly, if you will, although recent reports show that the country still relies massively on foreign technology for its weapons production, foreign technology that it still receives from Western companies despite sanctions, but more on that some other time. To give a few examples, Russia is now producing the Iranian Shahed suicide drone by themselves, so in Russian factories on Russian soil. Its artillery production is meant to be ramped up to 2 million shells annually. Also, the production of their T-80 main battle tank, which was originally halted in the 1990s, apparently might be rebooted. Anyway, that's it for Talking Tactics. Thanks for watching, hit like and subscribe, and see you next time.